Hello gamers! NVIDIA recently launched its latest mainstream 60-class GPUs, designed for 1080p and 1440p gaming. Today we're taking a look at the GeForce RTX 5060 Ti, featuring MSI's gaming OC graphics card. The RTX 5060 Ti comes in two variants, but it appears NVIDIA isn't encouraging reviews of the 8GB model. All launch day reviews focus exclusively on the 16GB version. Honestly, an 8GB graphics card feels outdated, especially in 2025. If you're curious about how the RTX 5060 Ti performs, let's jump straight into the benchmarks after a quick look at the specs. The GeForce RTX 5060 Ti features the GB206 GPU with 4,608 CUDA cores, 144 Tensor cores, and 36 ray tracing cores. The base model has a boost clock speed of 2,572 MHz. However, the MSI RTX 5060 Ti gaming OC variant we tested comes with a factory overclock of 2,647 MHz out of the box. According to NVIDIA, the 16GB version starts at $429, while the 8GB model is priced at $379. That said, pricing and availability can vary widely. Expect higher retail prices, especially for premium custom models, due to fluctuating stock and demand. I tested the MSI RTX 5060 Ti with an X870E carbon Wi-Fi motherboard, powered by an AMD Ryzen 9 9900X. The system also included a 64GB memory kit, running at 6,000 megatransfers per second. Here are the rest of the specifications of the test system used. Let's start with synthetic benchmarks. The RTX 5060 Ti 16GB shows only a marginal improvement over its direct predecessor, the RTX 4060 Ti. However, it's noticeably faster than the RTX 3060 Ti, making it a worthwhile upgrade for users coming from older 60-class cards. When ray tracing is involved, the RTX 5060 Ti even outperforms the Radeon RX 7700 XT and RX 7800 XT, at least in synthetic tests. For ray tracing and frame generation, I tested the RTX 5060 Ti using Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3. In the benchmark results, only the MSI RTX 5060 Ti marked with FG has frame generation enabled. Without frame generation, the RTX 5060 Ti slightly trails the RTX 4070 in Cyberpunk 2077, but manages to outperform it in The Witcher 3. However, once frame generation is enabled, the RTX 5060 Ti pulls ahead of the other GPUs. Of course, enabling frame generation on the RTX 4070 or higher-tier GPUs would result in better performance than the 5060 Ti's frame gen capabilities. At 1920 by 1080 resolution, the RTX 5060 Ti is approximately 35% faster than the RTX 3060 Ti and around 24% faster than the RTX 4060 Ti. However, it's about 4% slower than the RTX 4070 and roughly 23% behind the RTX 5070. The results at 1080p are fairly consistent. The RTX 5060 Ti generally outperforms the RTX 4060 Ti and AMD's Radeon RX 7700 XT, but rarely surpasses the RTX 4070 at this resolution. Keep in mind that 1080p is typically CPU-bound. Depending on the processor used, results may vary. Had I used something like the Ryzen 9 9800 X3D, higher-end GPUs might have shown better performance. However, it's unlikely this would significantly impact the RTX 5060 Ti's relative standing. At 2560 by 1440 resolution, the RTX 5060 Ti's position in the lineup remains largely unchanged. The RTX 4070 still outperforms it, while the next step up, NVIDIA's RTX 5070, is significantly faster, with about a 36% performance advantage. It's unclear whether NVIDIA plans to release a refresh of the RTX 5060 Ti to fill the gap between it and the RTX 5070. However, there's clearly room in the lineup for another GPU to bridge that performance difference. Overall, the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB comfortably outperforms both the RTX 4060 Ti and the RTX 3060 Ti. That said, if pricing isn't a concern, the RTX 5070 is a more compelling choice, even with its 12GB of video memory. You've seen the results, and by now, You probably understand why I called the RTX 5060 Ti a disappointingly good graphics card. On one hand, it's faster than its predecessor and launched at a lower MSRP. However, as always, actual retail prices remain questionable. On the other hand, it fails to match or outperform the RTX 4070 and doesn't deliver the generation-over-generation leap many had hoped for. In fact, the entire RTX 50 series lineup hasn't shown a significant performance uplift compared to the RTX 40 series. In the end, the RTX 5060 Ti is good enough to consider for 1080p or 1440p gaming, but not impressive enough to get excited about. Let's go back to MSI's RTX 5060 Ti gaming OC graphics card. While some RTX 5060 Ti models use the standard 8-pin PCIe power connector, MSI chose to use the newer 16-pin 12-volt 2x6 connector. It's unclear why they went with this design choice, especially for a 180-watt GPU, considering the connector's controversial history with melting issues. In terms of power consumption, the MSI RTX 5060 Ti peaked at 179 watts, with an average draw of around 150 watts during testing. Although its factory boost clock is rated at 2,647 MHz, it reached a peak of 2,776 MHz and maintained an average boost clock of 2,748 MHz. I didn't manually overclock it. Like other modern NVIDIA GPUs, it automatically boosts higher and/or longer, as long as temperatures remain within safe limits, thanks to NVIDIA's boost technology. Speaking of temperature, this compact two-fan gaming OC model, like its larger gaming trio counterpart, runs silently while maintaining impressive thermals. During testing, the GPU peaked at just 62 degrees Celsius, with an average temperature of 56 degrees Celsius only. So, should you buy an RTX 5060 Ti? That ultimately depends on your needs and budget. As mentioned earlier, it's a solid GPU for 1080p and 1440p gaming, especially if priced under $500. However, it's unlikely we'll see 16GB models drop below that price point. Just look at the current GPU market. Most models aren't selling anywhere near their expected MSRPs. Also, if possible, avoid the 8GB variant. It doesn't deliver the same gaming experience as the 16GB model. While frame rates may appear similar, the actual gameplay can suffer. Expect delayed asset loading, occasional stuttering, and other performance issues with the lower memory version. That's it for today. But before you click away, just a quick question for those who made it to the end. Do you prefer side-by-side GPU comparisons with gameplay footage? Or are benchmark graphs enough? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reviewing and comparing more GPUs soon, so stay tuned for more content. If you found this video informative and helpful, please hit the like button, share it, and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps with the algorithm. Thanks for watching.